Everybody's got a price, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a pod, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo, and we are back for another episode of Everybody's Got a Pod. And of course, I am joined by the man coming off a little illness. It is the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase. Ted, how are you?
I'm pretty good, man. It's Christmas season. This is one of my favorite times of the years. I'm one of those guys. I like to watch all the old Christmas movies. I just get a big kick out of that, you know. And one of my favorites is Scrooge. Yeah. And it's okay, what's his name? He's passed away now.
Is it with George C. Scott?
Yes. He plays Scrooge better than anybody I've ever seen. That's my favorite. That's my favorite Christmas movie. Anyway,
I love that one too. Yeah. Invariably, if my wife and I are gonna watch something though, I'm like, hey, let's watch Scrooge, and she's like, yeah, and then she puts on like a Muppet Christmas Carol. That's not what I meant, but okay. You know, look, it's we're excited about Christmas, and we're actually going to be discussing something holiday related here on the show, Ted. We are
Let's get to it.
We are looking back to 1995. And you know, we kind of touched on this part of your career a little bit earlier on the Steve Austin episode that we did. A part of that conversation included your involvement at In Your House Season's Beatings with the fake Santa Claus. But this week, we're telling the full story of that event and all the circumstances surrounding it in late 1995 for our next look at the new generation era in the WWF. I'm excited to get into it, Ted. But look, if you want to give yourself a little Christmas gift, then get over to youtube.com/@everybody's-got-a-pod and get subscribed. That giveaway that we've got going on is going to be wrapping up at the end of the month here. We'll select our 2 winners at the start of 2024. As a reminder, we're giving away a signed Ted WWE Elite Legends figure and a signed WWE Superstars figure, and you can become eligible to be one of our 2 winners by simply subscribing on YouTube. Plus, we have stories that you will not hear on the podcast over there that we drop every single Monday as a YouTube exclusive clips. So if you're not subscribed there, you're missing out on even more stories from the legendary $1 million man. Again, it's youtube.com/@everybody's-got-a-pod. Go and get subscribed right now. So, Ted, at the end of October here in 1995, Dustin Rhodes is going to make his WWF return, but his gimmick is a little bit different than when you worked with him previously. Now he's here as Goldust, a character which Vince will categorize as androgynous. So, Ted, when Dustin arrives here in the WWF again, and now he's Goldust, what were your initial thoughts?
I was like, this is just crazy. It's like, you know, it goes back to, and I believe it was Arn Anderson who said this to me. He said, Ted, he says, you do know that Vince doesn't like wrestling. It's like wrestling is the bastard child of the entertainment industry. And he's always trying to make it or present it as something more acceptable to the public than just the old, you know, because back in the day, back in my father's era and everything, you know, your wrestling crowd was pretty, you know, you didn't see a lot of polo shirts and khaki pants,
right,
at the wrestling matches. It was a rough crowd, and I think that this is one of those things Vince wanted to do to, again, target a younger audience. So,
yeah. It's, I mean, hard to talk about it, you know, because, you know, the day and age where it's, you know, everything's offensive nowadays, but, you know, really it's just something that happened in the WWF at this time. It was a controversial character. It's a character that worked and resonated with a lot of people. But yeah, Ted, I mean, you know, you're coming from that old school era. You're from Amarillo and Mid-South and, you know, all these kind of blood and guts territories. And now you're seeing Dustin Rhodes, who you worked with previously, Dusty Rhodes' son, and he's in this very unique character. I mean, like, Personally, did you think it was a good idea to do a character like this?
Not really. You know, I didn't. You know, and to Dustin's credit, I mean, you know, I don't know what, and I never really talked to him about it. You know, I didn't really want to bring it up. You know, whether he was mad about it or not mad about it, but hey, he did it. You know, and he did the best he could with it. I believe so. And the other thing I often wonder sometimes is if, you know, if it's for whatever reason, if this was Vince taking a shot at Dusty. I don't know.
That's kind of what like a lot of people viewed it as, especially given Vince's history of kind of taking shots with Akeem, the African Dream, and of course when he brought Dusty and putting him in polka dots. But like much like his father owned the polka dots, Dustin came in here as Goldust, and he just went full on with the character. So you've got to
Yeah,
give him a lot of credit.
yeah, yeah.
We'll move off of Goldust here, but Ted, I've got to ask you this question. 1987, Vince offers you a big money contract to come in, but it's not the $1 Million Man character; it's the Goldust character. Are we seeing that version of Ted DiBiase if that had been the circumstances, or would you have denied it?
Let's say that again.
So I'm just trying to get your mind back to 1987. You know,
Okay.
you get this big money offer from Vince McMahon to come into the WWF. He's all excited about this character that he's pitching to you. And he says, okay, Ted, this character is called Goldust. He's going to be an androgynous character. You're going to wear a full body gold suit. You're going to paint your face and you're going to wear a wig. And Ted, would that have worked for you? Do you think you would have accepted a big money offer to do it?
Honestly, I don't think so. No. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, I don't think I could have done it. You know, it's kind of like, you know, when you do something, you know, your heart's got to be in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like, okay, I'll be a character in your show, but you know, I would, you know, I wouldn't have been able to do it for that reason.
So we've got another arrival here in the WWF at this time. Ahmed Johnson is coming into the company. And out of the gate, he's getting a ton of hype and a huge crowd reaction. Ted, did you get to spend a lot of time with Ahmed?
Not really. And you know, big guy, great appearance, obviously. But you know, again, you know, Vince was going to push him because he was the size he was.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like he did, but you know, he wasn't a great worker. In other words, he had to have somebody on the other side of the ring who could lead him. And if he didn't have that, then, you know, he just, again, it's one of those things.
I've heard he was not easy to get along with. Jake was actually, when Jake would come into the company here in '96, he was tasked with trying to help him understand the business and promos and how to work better and ring psychology, all that sort of thing. And Jake said that the guy he'd try to teach him shit and the guy would just blow him off. And he said like he was just an asshole and he was really arrogant. Did you get to see that side of Ahmed, or was that just Jake who was, you know, had to be?
Well, you know, I don't think I ever personally saw it. But now that you said that, I know that Jake and I, you know, had talked about it. And so, you know, again, this is, in my opinion, it's Vince, you know, trying to prove that he can make anybody a champion. Because, you know, he wasn't, you know, he couldn't work. He was a great big body and he couldn't work. And there's a lot of guys like that, you know, but when you're like that and you know your future depends on the guy that's calling the match and you blow him off, well, you know, then the next time he gets in the ring with you, guess what? He's going to make you look like shit.
And Jake could, like, you know,
Jake did, and I think Jake did.
Yep. Like
Yeah,
Jake is not ever gonna overpower Ahmed Johnson, but he knows all the tricks, like leaning on a guy and just
oh,
blowing him up
yeah,
and making his life miserable in the ring.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's Ahmed did not last long here in the WWF. And honestly, it's like, a guy, he's a former pro football player for the Dallas Cowboys, as a matter of fact. Like this guy was, a legit athlete. It's just one of those things. It's like, I think it's what's going on between the ears and your willingness to listen and learn. And it sounds like he just was not there.
Well, yeah, and I don't know, and maybe it's because he came out of the National Football League, a legitimate, sport where, it's not a work, it's not entertainment. I mean, you're a real athlete competing, and he was competing, obviously in football at the highest level.
Hmm.
And maybe because of that, maybe that's what made him think his shit didn't stink. But when you come in, you can take that, and when you come into our world, you can take all of that and just throw it out the window because, wrestling is sports entertainment, and you have to learn how to entertain the people, and you need to learn how to read a crowd and all of those other things. And, if you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to last long. And he didn't.
Yep, a great body, a great look is one element of the many, many elements it takes to succeed in professional wrestling.
And I'll be honest with you, you don't even have to have a great body. Look at me. I looked like an athlete, but I didn't look like I just came off a cover of Muscle and Fitness magazine, ever. So,
yeah, and I've heard you reference Buck Robley before and say like what an awesome worker, what a great pro wrestler he was, and he certainly wasn't a body guy. So yeah, there's something to it. Like maybe the body's overrated.
oh, definitely.
It's funny because as we were talking about Ahmed Johnson, as we were both kind of like describing him, and I
Yeah.
was like, it sounds exactly like Warrior, essentially. Just like a self-centered guy, not really interested in getting better, thinks he just deserves to be pushed because of his look.
Oh yeah, it'd be like okay, hey, look, who are you? I just came out of the NFL. And I said, my answer to that, if it was ever asked, well, this is not the NFL, and you know what, and you better learn how to do that, so you ain't gonna last long.
Yep. And it proved out for both him and Warrior. They did not last long.
No.
So it's that's the truth of the matter. So Ted, allegedly the Click has a lot of power backstage during this period. We have this from the November 27th Observer. From reports we've received, the Click met with Vince McMahon on the road a few times, and one of the conversations regarded going through the roster person by person and evaluating whether they belonged or should be moved up or down. So the report would go on to indicate that the suggestions made by the Click were not followed through on. But have you ever heard of circumstances where the boys are getting the opportunity to tell a promoter what which other talent should stay or go?
No. And I'll be honest with you, that's the first time I heard that.
So I've heard the story before. I hadn't read it in from Meltzer until I heard the research. But the story goes that they were in Indianapolis one night and they didn't like the house show they were booked on, and they said we're not going to go to the building. And I think they called the office and said, hey, we're not doing it. We're not going to go to the building. We don't like the booking. And Vince flew to Indianapolis and met with them to kind of like negotiate. Okay, what's wrong? What can we fix? How can we make the company better? And they, according, I think it was Kevin Nash actually said this. He was like, they went person by person through the roster and said like, this guy is good. This guy's not here to be a team player. This guy sucks. Like they went all the way through the roster. It's like, man, when I heard it, it's like that can't be real. But I've heard it corroborated enough now that it's like, man, maybe where there's smoke, there's fire, I guess.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, we all hear that Vince had like a kind of an infatuation with Shawn Michaels. For whatever reason, he just saw this massive potential in Shawn, and Shawn could like do no wrong, always took Shawn's side. And no matter how many issues he had outside of the ring, Vince always kind of had his back and supported him. A lot of stuff going on with Shawn at this time. And like, look, he's got heat with just about everybody backstage during this era. I know that you and Sean are friends today, and certainly circumstances change. He's older, wiser. He's a different man, a better man.
Oh, totally.
But like during this time, like, were you aware of how much heat he was getting with everybody that wasn't inside of his friend group?
Well, I knew he had a little heat, and he was like a little Hall and Nash too. It's kind of like a natural thing. Is when it was almost like, we're the new guys on the block and we're here to take over, and basically I just smile and grin and mind my own business, go my way. As long as it doesn't affect me directly, I stay out of it. But if
Well,
it's going to affect my future and and how I'm handled within the business, then that's that's the only time I try to stay out of everybody else's mess.
I've got to give you credit, Ted, because it feels like it would be tough to stay out of it during that time, especially because, I mean, yes, you're a manager, but you're still a talent. So it's like,
Yeah,
you kind of see guys, being a little bit pushy and getting their way backstage during this period of time. And you're like, hey, look, I'm just here to do my job and go home. I don't want the drama. So that's how you have a nice long
and
career.
that's what I'm saying is like, and that's the thing is, at this point, I'm not an active member in terms of, you know, um, I'm a manager,
Hmm.
and so I'm not ever directly in the spotlight. I'm only there to represent my team and be their spokesperson, whoever they might be. And so that's how I was able to just stay clear of it.
Ted, I didn't want to let this episode pass by without asking you about this ridiculous stuff. During this time, the WWF is doing something pretty interesting with an impersonator coming into the company who has nothing to do with wrestling. Let's go ahead and check out a quick clip, and then I can get your thoughts on the matter.
All my life, ever since I was a young boy in Hope, Arkansas, I've been a fan of the new generation of WWF superstars. There is no equal. I especially like the Monday Night Raw series where we get the family together and get a little popcorn and sit around and watch some of the best entertainment this country has to offer. Well, of course, there's Diesel. He's big and strong, and at 7 feet, he is an awesome physical specimen. And of course, there's Razor Ramon. He's one of my favorites too. He just oozes of machismo. And then again, there's the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, who has all the women. But I think he might have taken a lesson or two from me. I'm known as a little bit of a ladies' man too. It's no secret that power is the ultimate aphrodisiac, and when it comes to power, I've got it.
All right. So, Ted, what do
I
you
have
think?
never seen that. When did that ever air?
It was he was actually around quite a bit. So this is 95, like I want to say like November.
How could I have missed that?
You didn't know that there was an impersonator around?
Oh, it was an impersonator.
It was. That was not Bill Clinton. It was just
Oh
a
my
very,
God.
very good
Well,
impersonator.
it looked just like him.
Sounded like him. Like it
Yeah.
was an incredible impersonator.
Yeah.
But it's like, I know it's election season, it's November at this time, so it's like, okay, I get that you're trying to kind of play into what's topical, but man, objectively, Ted, did you find that entertaining?
Yeah. Yeah. I did find it entertaining.
See, I didn't know which route you were gonna go, because we hear all the time as fans, like when it comes to wrestling storylines, you want to stay away from religion, and you want to stay away from politics, and you want to stay away from like sexuality, right? But
Yeah.
here Vince is just like, nope, we're gonna bring on an impersonator, we're gonna reference the Monica Lewinsky scandal, and let's just have some fun. It's oof, man, I don't know.
Well, I take it off. The one thing that I've always said about Vince is he's got a pretty big set of cojones, buddy.
Yes, he does. He does. And I mean, like, if it's me running a company, I'm saying, like, nope, because, God, who knows how many Democrats are huge wrestling fans and they're going to tune in and see us kind of trashing Bill Clinton and say, you know what? I'm not watching WWF anymore. I'll go check out WCW. So it's a huge risk. You could isolate theoretically half of your audience.
Yeah, obviously, I don't think Vince cared.
I guess not. Oh man, but yeah, it's when I was doing the research, I was like, they had a Bill Clinton impersonator, and I went searching for videos. I was like, okay, this has got to be in the show.
Wow.
All right, so let's get into discussion about our subject here, which is of course In Your House Seasons Beatings from December 17th, 1995 in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Ted, your night is going to start out on the match that opens the pay-per-view. It's a tag team match with your guys Sid and the 1-2-3 Kid losing to Marty Jannetty and Razor Ramon. So, Ted, the combination of Sid and Kid here, it's interesting because it's like two guys that have literally nothing in common, you would think, but they're being paired together. What did you think of the tag team?
I thought it was crazy. Yeah, it's like the 1-2-3 Kid and Sid. That's like Mutt and Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't.
It was interesting to see them together. We do hear though from actually, as a matter of fact, it's Arn Anderson has said a lot of times it's guys who do not have anything in common that make a really strong tag team. And I guess we've seen some of that throughout the years, but here in the WWF, it's the guys who have everything in common that have had success, like Legion of Doom and Demolition and the Rockers. I can think of 10 more examples. I don't know, I guess the Hart Foundation was an exception where they had the Anvil and they had Bret Hart, but I don't know, it was strange. It was unique, to be sure, right?
Yeah.
So during this time, I mean, you're managing Kid and Sid here. It's Sid, as we've talked about Sid on a few occasions, where you were hired to kind of help him keep his oars in the water, so to speak. At this point, he has not yet been the WWF champion. Did you view him as a guy who had earned a spot as champion, or could be a flag bearer for the company?
Well, again, he could be, but again, it's like not everybody's got the same gifts, and for me, the bottom line was always, to me, my perception is that if you're going to put a championship belt on a guy, he's got to be a guy who can get in that ring with whoever you put him in the ring with and make a match. And that wasn't always done, and I guess there were other ways that Vince protected some of these guys. But to me, I mean, Sid was, he was extremely believable.
Yeah.
And he got a good interview.
He did.
But, he didn't always have the in-ring talent that, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
He was like a big guy. And of course, there was a lot of things that obviously he wouldn't do, but I guess for his size and everything, he could pretty well work his gimmick. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And work his style with a lot of guys, and that way it was very effective. So, do I think he's one of the greatest of all times? No, but he was. He was good.
He was, and jumped off the page, man. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who looks like he belongs on a WrestleMania poster? It's Sid. His body, that real intense look he would get in his eyes when he would do like a promo. Like he's got a couple of the really important elements for success down, but yeah, it's the ring work certainly was not one of them. Okay, guys, let's take a quick break to talk about taking care of some serious business, and I'm talking about taking care of business in the bedroom. And if you're trying to take care of business, you need to try Blue Chew. Guys, let's just take a minute to talk about sex. You remember back in the day when you were always ready to go? Well, with a little help from Blue Chew, you can get that thing so hard you can take it hunting. It's going to help increase your performance and regain that old confidence in bed. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready when the opportunity arises. The process is simple. Sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And you want to know the best part? It's all done online. No awkward visits to the doctor's office, no weird conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy anymore. Blue Chew's tablets are made right here in the USA and prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package, but of course there will be nothing discreet about your package. Look, guys, I ordinarily like to try things before I make any kind of a commitment, because you want to find out, is this actually going to work? Will it work for me? Well, that's got to be the best part of this whole thing. With our deal, you can try it for a month for free. All you have to do is pay $5 shipping. This whole time, you and your partner may have been having the best sex of your whole life and been missing out on it without even knowing. So why not just give Blue Chew a shot? Just find out. When you can get it for a month for free with only $5 shipping, it's silly not to just give it a try. Women are attracted to confidence, and Blue Chew can help to give you confidence where it counts the very most. Don't wait any longer. Let's chew it and do it. Take advantage of our special deal. Again, you can try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code EGAP at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code EGAP, and receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. Okay, so a guy who is on the show that I'm not sure we'll get to talk about much is Buddy Landell. He's going to put over Ahmed Johnson here to set up an angle with Jeff Jarrett. Buddy is really highly regarded as a wrestler, and most people say that he could have been a huge star if he could have controlled his issues with substance abuse. Did you get to spend a lot of time around Buddy?
I was around Buddy, and I was, he was in Mid-South as well. I think that's where I first met him, was Mid-South. Mm-hmm. And he did have talent. He was very talented, and you already said it. He killed himself because of all the the other crap he got into.
Man, like I hear all the time that he was just this unbelievable performer, like in ring, great connection with the audience, great at getting heat. He was not like a body guy or anything like that, but man, like when it came to just like ring knowledge, apparently he was just it.
He was good. He was very good.
Yeah, it's a shame, because you think about a guy like that and the kind of future that he could have had. He's still a relatively young man here during this time, and it's like his career is essentially over shortly after this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, man, am I excited to ask you about this next part, Ted. Henry Godwinn and Hunter Hearst Helmsley will meet here in a hog pen match, which Triple H is going to win when Godwinn misses a tackle and goes into the pen, which is the stipulation for the match. If you get dumped into the mud, you lose the match. Afterwards, Triple H is going to get press slammed into the mud and slip around in the dirt and muck to give everybody a happy ending. So, Ted, a hog pen match in pro wrestling. What do you think of the concept?
Well, it's kind of like you're always looking for something new, something fresh, and giving the people something that they've never seen before. And in wrestling, that's hard to do because just about everything you can think of, cage match,
casket match,
ladder match, and this match and that match, and so sure, pig pen match. Okay, let's do it.
I mean, it's memorable. It's something I remember all these years.
Well, and as you present that to of the fan base, they're going to go, wow, that's different. We got to see that. So.
Ted, rumor has it that you took the slop bucket from the Godwinns on a couple of occasions where they would dump the mud or whatever out onto you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You remember getting the slop bucket?
Oh yeah.
What was
it? Again, and of course I'm a heel.
Yeah.
I'm a heel, so yeah, why not? I mean, who better to a heel manager? Ultimately, that's what he gets. If it's not the slop bucket, it's something,
It works too because you're always wearing a suit out there and you're like very kind of like arrogant. So all of a sudden these farmers are just gonna dump whatever it is, pig shit on you out there. Like it's pretty good stuff. What was actually in the bucket? Do you recall?
Uh, well, it wasn't cow manure. I don't know. I'm not sure what it was, but it wasn't the real deal.
Thank goodness for that.
Now, yeah, because I wouldn't have been standing there for that.
I've heard, now I don't know how true this is. I have heard over the years that some guys, depending on who is getting the slot bucket, would mess with the bucket. Like they would like maybe pee in there a little bit or put some other kind of trash or refuse inside of there. I
Uh,
don't think that happened to you. I want to say that that happened to Sunny or something. I think she was getting heavily ribbed at the time. I think you'd know if you got something other than
yeah,
just like some mud
oh, yeah,
dumped on you, right?
yeah.
Uh,
I
well,
don't think I never crossed anybody. Like I said, I minded my own business. As long as it didn't, I would analyze it that way. It's kind of like, how's this look for me? How's this look for my team? Am I being asked to do something that's ridiculous? And that was never asked of me. So, and like the slot bucket thing, I thought that was a great deal. So,
I agree. It just makes sense to have Ted
oh yeah,
DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, take the slot bucket.
yeah. What better guy to take the slot bucket? Finally, somebody shut that guy up.
It just makes perfect sense. I also want to talk to you about the Undertaker versus Mabel in a casket match at this event. First, I'd love to know what you thought of Mabel and the big push that he received in the company as a heel during this time.
Obviously, he wasn't going to be, a guy that size and looking like that. He's not gonna be a great wrestler. He's gonna have to, he's got to work within the confines of what he looks like. Again, Andre the Giant was a great worker because he knew how to make the most out of. He knew how he would, handle anybody, and could find a way that logically, in other words, who in their right mind would think that anybody had a chance to beat Andre the Giant? I mean, here's this guy 7 feet 4 inches tall, 460 pounds. But like in the course of the match, he'd find a way to, like, maybe he'd go for a clothesline, and somebody would, they would duck under it, and they would come from behind and like almost clothesline him at the knee from behind, which would make him go to his knee. Now he's on his knees, and now they're face to face. You see what I'm saying?
So Andre was a giant, maybe not as, of course not, this known for being this, technical marvel in the ring, but he knew his gimmick well enough to know
Yeah,
like the psychology behind it, getting chopped down essentially as a big giant, right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
so maybe a guy like Mabel could have had more success if he had, borrowed some of the notions that made Andre successful.
Yeah, yeah. He was. I didn't see him going anywhere for very long, and he didn't.
No, he'd end up, being in and out of the company here for a while, but no, I mean, certainly never reached the main event status that Vince seemed to have him, set for. And it's interesting too at this time because Vince is going a little bit smaller, more athletic, with guys like Brett as champion. Soon Shawn Michaels is going to be champion, but still he's featuring these monster versus monster type matches with Mabel pretty consistently after Mabel wins the King of the Ring here. So a little hypothetical before we get to our final clip this week. I'm just curious more than anything because of you and your stature in the business and your knowledge. If Vince were to come to you during this time, because it does feel like he's just kind of like trying stuff like, okay, well, Diesel was champion, and that didn't really work. Okay, let's put it back on Brett. Let's see if this Mabel guy has some potential. Okay, that's not working. We'll give it to Shawn. So like he's just kind of feeling things out to see what direction he's going to move in post Hulk Hogan. So if Vince had come to you during this time and said, "Hey Ted, I'd love your opinion. Like, who do you think is the champion? Who's my marquee guy that I need to put all my juice behind?"
Well, Brett, because Brett, Brett would be in contention for sure because we came from the same psychology of wrestling, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Not all the gimmicks and everything, but two guys who went out there and used their talent and had a match where you're in and out of holes and you get heat and you make comebacks and you build a story to a crescendo, you know. And a lot of the people that Vince put in the ring didn't have the ability to do that. And of course, but again, I'm trying to look at it through Vince's eyes. Vince is trying to create something that's it's sports entertainment, and it's almost like going to a circus.
Mm-hmm.
You got a little something for everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's what's interesting about this era is like, yep, Bret Hart. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to argue like he's the guy in the ring. Like, on the face of the planet, there's probably nobody better during that time than Bret Hart.
Yeah.
But that being said, that's not really what Vince is selling anymore. Like, he's trying to sell entertainment, and like, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to make a choice among the roster that's there at the time of who you'd want to make your champion.
Yeah, well, and that's just it. It's old school versus whatever, and again, I didn't always agree with what Vince did. And Vince even said that. He says, we can agree to disagree. He says, but he says, if you don't agree with something, tell me what we could do that would be better. And that was it. I grew up in one era. I grew up when wrestling was still, wrestling, and now, Vince is almost like making it a cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like that, but I mean, again, from where I sit today and I realize what in fact he was doing. And now it's like, you've got wrestling video games and wrestling action figures and all of this merchandise, toys that kids can buy. He was marketing to a younger crowd.
Yep.
And,
like it or not, he turned it into like pop culture.
Yeah. And you know what? He was successful. And so again, kudos to him. I mean, I'm grateful because if it hadn't been for Vince, I mean, I was, he put in me this character, envisioned this character for me that, I took it and ran with it. And, again, I'm one of those guys benefiting. I get a quarterly royalties check from the WWE for merchandise sales and video games and all that stuff. And I'll just keep getting that. Well, thank you, Vince. But again, it's just like, it was just kind of like, because I grew up in the business, and watched my dad and how it was then, and how I saw it going forward. Is like, I put the monkey suit on to be the $1 Million Man. I cut the interviews and I was but when I got in the ring and took the suit off, I wrestled exactly like I had always wrestled.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's easier for me to see what Vince was doing then from where I am now than I could see it when I was there.
And obviously, the way that things turned out, the $1 Million Man is your legacy, which is awesome. It is kind of fun to hypothetically kind of think of like, what if Black Glove Ted had been brought into the WWF? Could have been a lot of fun. Well, speaking of fun, Ted, let's end this one on a really fun note. I teased it at the top of the show, and we discussed the Santa Claus character previously on our Steve Austin episode. But when we covered it, we didn't watch the actual segment that led to the moment. Let's have a look at the final clip this week, and I'm excited to see your reaction to this one.
Think of a better time of the year. When all you people are out running up your credit cards, being in the spirit of Christmas, and illustrate a point that I've illustrated time and again here in the World Wrestling Federation. And that point being that everybody has a price for the $1 Million Man. That's right, each and every one of you can be bought. Hey, and that includes you, Sammy Omega. That's right, you got a price for the $1 Million Man.
He can be bought cheap.
That's right, you do. Oh, you don't think so? You don't think I can't buy you? You got the guts. Then come on up here in the ring right now. That's right. And I'll prove it to you and all these people and everybody watching at home that I can buy you.
Throw me one of those t-shirts, fat boy.
Oh, and bring your fat, jolly friend along with you.
Don't tell me Savio Vega
has
sold out to Ted DiBiase. I don't believe this.
There we go. That's right. Come on in here, Santa. Ho, ho, ho.
What do you think? What do you think his price would be? 2 tacos and a
I
burrito?
have a question for you, Savio. Right now, there are millions of kids all around the world and watching at home on television who believe in Santa Claus. I can't think of anything more ridiculous in my life. I mean, look at him. He's a great big, overweight, fat slob. Look at that white hair, white beard. I mean, not only is he big and fat, but he's ancient. You're going to tell me he can circle the globe in one night and deliver toys to everybody up and down the chimney? Yeah, personally, I don't think he can get from the couch to the refrigerator without blowing a fuse. Anyway, my question to you is this.
Stop disparaging
Do you
Santa.
believe in Santa Claus?
Primero, Mr. $1 Million Man, tú has tratado de destruir la imagen de mi amigo Santa Claus. First, Mr. $1 Million Man, you tried to destroy the magic of Santa Claus.
You know
You
what he just
tried
called him,
by
McMahon?
Savio Vega. Savio Vega don't have a pride for you and for anybody.
All right, there you have it
You
then.
asked me if I believe in Santa Claus.
Claw.
For all my little friends right here, for the one is watching on TV right now, for my Latin American people, I believe in the magic of Santa Claus. Sí, yo creo en Santa Claus.
Hey, Lucy, I'm home.
Wait a minute. Now, one more time. The last thing you said, please, in English.
I say, Mr. $1 Million Man, yes, I believe in the magic of Santa Claus.
Well, you see there's one born every day. So you believe in Santa Claus? Well, if you believe in Santa Claus, then believe this, my friend.
Wait a minute. What
That's
is
right,
this?
Santa. That's right.
What?
Yeah, give me
What is
something.
this?
Go get it.
This is great.
Merry Christmas. There you go. There you go. Take that. There's a
The $1 Million Man has bought Santa.
That's right, Santa.
What do you mean he
Give me
bought
some holiday
Santa?
cheer.
That was good stuff. I love you also getting in on the action at the end.
Oh gosh, until I saw that, I forgot I did it. Yeah, where was that?
Oh gosh, where was this? Oh, it was Hershey, PA.
Yeah, oh gosh.
I loved it. That was good stuff. I think a lot of fans are going to see that and be like, "Oh, this is just ridiculous stuff." And it's like, "Hey guys, let's remember this was not meant for us. They're referencing Santa Claus. This was for the children in the audience,
Yeah.
and to get a story over that Ted DiBiase bought Santa, which is just it's fun stuff."
Yeah, that's it.
Oh man, I liked it. It led to that silly Santa Claus thing, which we discussed. That like basically evil Santa being part of the WWF for about a day, and then that came to an end. But yeah, it was man, I enjoyed it. Ted, if you were to give that a Meltzer star rating out of 5, what would you give it?
What do you mean? A Meltzer star rating?
Yeah, Meltzer always ranks matches. And
For
shit.
what I just watched? I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of like, it's like, well, where Christmas is concerned, I don't know. I mean, I was a villain. That's the whole thing. Everybody needs to remember in the context of what they were seeing. I mean, I would never in a million years break the hearts of millions of children because for all you little kids that are out there who might be listening to this, and I know that Santa Claus is absolutely 100% real, and he's coming, and he's going to come to your house just like he's going to come to my house. And boy, I hope he's got me something good this year.
I love Babyface Ted here on the podcast. That's a new Ted DiBiase for us. And look, I want all the listeners we can get. I hope that we don't have children listeners because I've been saying shit a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But hey, if they're out there, amazing. Well, Ted, that is going to do it for this week. This was a blast. Next week, it's another episode of Ask Ted Anything. You actually put it out as we're recording today on your social media, and already just getting a massive reaction. So we're going to have tons of questions from all you fans next week. Before we go, I want to remind you all that if you'd like to get this podcast with no commercials and get access to a ton of sports, entertainment, and other shows, get over to premierstreamingnetwork.com. Get signed up for Premier Plus. If you're a wrestling fan, you are just going to love it. Myself and Ted are over there. Rob Van Dam has got a podcast with my brother Dom over there. Just content for everybody. Again, it's premierstreamingnetwork.com, Premier Plus. If you're enjoying our show and you're listening on your podcast apps, just do Ted and I a quick favor. Give us a Christmas gift. It takes only a minute. Like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. That'll help Ted and I out a ton. You can follow Ted on social at MDM Ted DiBiase on all of his social media. Follow me at Marcus P. D'Angelo on X, and follow Premier Streaming Network at Watch on Premier on X and at Premier Streaming Network on Instagram and Facebook. Ted, it was fun to look back to the new generation era with you again. We're going to have a few more stops back during that period of time over the course of the show. But man, I think that was a good way to enjoy the Christmas season, right?
I think so too. And of course, we're gonna do this. We're going to record again next week. We'll record before Christmas, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we got one more shot at it, right?
We got one more shot of
before Santa shows up, right? So
that's right.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm ready too, man. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
My pleasure. And as I always have to remember all of you, even at this Christmas season, even when we are overjoyed with the Christmas spirit, everybody still has a price for the $1 Million Man.
Santa certainly proved it in that clip, and we'll prove it again next week right here on Everybody's Got a Pod.